This is episode number 484 of the Health Fitness Podcast by InnerFight, brought to you in association with Smith Street Paleo. Hop over to smithstreetpaleo.com and get involved in all of that good food. A few of you may remember a few weeks ago we were down in Oman with the InnerFight Endurance Run Academy athletes that were racing down there in the first UTMB race, 137 kilometers, absolutely brutal course. So I'm super happy to have on the show Rob and Tom, who finished that race, and actually have Sean booked in for the new year to talk about his experience and his move into ultra running. But here is Tom and Rob talking about UTMB. Epic show. Loved it. Welcome back to another edition of the InnerFight Podcast. And I'm joined, as I said there in the intro, by only two of the three legends. That's because one of them is too important to join us today, and he's got his own show. Robert Jones, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you. That's good. And Tom Otton, been on the show before.
Yes,
mate, welcome back. It was a long time back.
It was with Lloyd Budd, if you remember.
Yeah, in a coffee shop.
We did have it in a coffee shop.
That's how you get to 500 episodes, is you do a lot of shows, and he was on it before. So welcome, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this race, because in the aftermath, this race has been dubbed as one of the most brutal races. But when did you hear of it, and why did you sign up? Let's start there, Tom.
Look, interesting one. I'd been following UTMB for the last couple of years in terms of what they're doing in Chamonix and seeing those races. I think anybody that starts to progress in trail running starts to look at what the world's best are doing, what the world's biggest races are. Following UTMB for a couple of years and then starting to think that could be an option at some point.
Yeah.
Get a bit of experience, get some races under the belt, start to get some points together, and then start to look at how do we qualify for this race in summer. So,
like, give UTMB some context.
Okay, UTMB Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc is it's a week-long event in Chamonix, but it's also a specific race. So there are a number of races. I think it's 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob. 4 or 5 races over the week.
Rob looks as low as he knows exactly how many races there are.
I have no idea. I think it's about 5.
I think it's about 5. And they range from 50k, 70k, 100k, and I think UTMB is about 160-something K.
I know that's true.
Yeah, so ballpark. So for each of those races, you need to qualify by doing a certain number of other races that provide points. You get enough points, you're able to go into the lottery, and then you can hopefully qualify for the race. So they call it the World Summit of Ultra Running,
right?
Rather than the World Champs. So it's World Summit because you qualify in the way that you do. And then, look, this race came up just down the road. A few of us, or all of us actually, I think, have travelled around the world to go to some of these larger trail races where we've looked to earn some points. Yeah. And then one appeared down the road. So when that was announced, it was a bit of a no-brainer. It's like, look, it's the only one that we've ever been able to drive to rather than fly to, so let's get it done.
Robert, you spent quite a lot of time in Chamonix.
Yes.
You've been there when UTMB's been on, like for that week?
I've been there for the start and the build-up to the race and the start of the first day, but I've always had to come back to work, so I've never actually seen the race running.
Childish.
Shame, I know. But in Chamonix at the time of the race, it's absolutely mental. Everybody's buzzing. The whole town is just a wash of trail runners, people there to watch trail running, all the endurance athletes, the big names in running and sport. So it's just fantastic to see.
So why did you sign up for UTMB Oman?
Again, because of the reputation of the Chamonix race, I thought it's going to be hard. It's going to get me enough points to maybe enter some of the Chamonix version.
Right.
And it's just down the road, so I thought, why not? Let's go for it.
Mate, you said something there, it's going to be hard.
Yes.
How did you... This is pre-race.
Pre-race.
How did you define hard?
I would define hard... Well, firstly, the length of the race was a staggering 140 kilometres. But
longer than you'd ever done before?
40 kilometres longer than before.
Right.
And then the elevation was near on 8,000 metres once we finished.
You thought...
We thought, yes.
So, and mate, for those people that don't really understand what that distance is like or that elevation is like, can you try and explain it?
Elevation-wise, it's like climbing Everest from sea level.
Right.
Distance-wise.
And a bit more context on that to put into people that are here. It's going up and down the Burj Khalifa 12 times.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Whilst running to Abu Dhabi.
That doesn't sound too bad.
So yeah, a marathon is 40k, or a half marathon, if you like, is 21 kilometers. It's 7 half marathons.
Right.
And 3.5 full marathons. So,
mate, obviously for you've done different trail races and up to 100k. What were you expecting going into something that's 140k with all that elevation?
Lots of walking, to be honest. To be honest, I thought there'd be a bit more running involved, and I thought there'd be a lot more runnable sections, but the organisers made it devastatingly hard.
We'll come back to that in a second. Tom, for you, we'd done because we went the wrong way, we actually did a 90k race, but made it 95k.
We did.
You've done other single-stage races, mate. But this was going to be the longest single stage for you.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that a little bit.
Exactly that. It's the longest single stage. I mean, you and I have both done Marathon des Sables together.
Yeah.
Which, when people look at the highlights, 250 kilometers. It's across the Sahara Desert. It sounds very difficult, and don't get me wrong. It's a very tough race.
Yeah.
However, you're only ever doing X amount, and we did about 90k on one of the days on day 4, which was pretty tough. Don't get me wrong. We were seeing things by the time we went to bed.
Yeah.
But it was nothing like this. The fact that it's a single stage race, but it's just how technical it was.
Yeah.
And we're not technical runners.
Yeah.
And we've trained on mountains here that are not particularly technical. We've trained for distance, but we don't have the Alps on our doorstep. We don't have any really tough terrain that's anything like that.
But you knew that it was going to be like that.
I think to an extent.
Right.
Look, we all had the course profile. We all knew the basics of it, but even when myself and Rob sat down and said, how long do you think this is going to take us?
Yeah.
We were 10 hours off.
Yeah.
You know, like literally. We were so I think we all kind of underestimated it, and that's also sort of replicated by the conversations that the race leaders had and the winners. One of them being the UTMB, the Ultra Trail World Champion in 2016.
Yeah.
And he said this was the toughest race he's ever done in his life.
Yeah.
And so those guys also had the same data we did in terms of course profile.
Yeah.
And they also completely underestimated it.
The pros as well at the end of the race were saying they thought it was harder than UTMB in Chamonix.
I heard that all the way through. There was at least 3 guys I was with in different aid stations that said that they'd done UTMB, and they said not even close to this.
Yeah.
He's not here, so you can talk about him how you want, not Hurls. We're going to talk about Hurls after.
He's probably going to listen to this.
Both of you, mate, he's still on BlackBerry.
That's true.
It's true. He does think he have a BlackBerry. True story. You've both been coached by Tom Walker. You both knew that it was going to be a lot of up and down. You both knew, like you said there, Tom, it is quite difficult to train for that stuff here. Talk us through a little bit of the training. You don't have to be nice to Tom Walker. You can be very brutal to him. But talk us through a bit of the training and how you felt the preparation went to prepare for that kind of incline and also decline.
Okay. Well, for me, my training started really on I looked through my training peaks today. It started on the 1st of September properly with Tom.
Right.
And I've counted up, I did just over 1,000 kilometres in training miles.
Wow.
I haven't checked elevation and the additional sessions, so the stretching, the recovery sessions.
Yeah.
There was definitely, because of the way I work and things, we did some gym sessions to simulate the hills. So there was lots of sandbag work, lots of box work. There was lots of sled work, just to try and get the same stimulus of running in the mountains. And then at the weekends, we were able to drive off into Shoka and then do some trail running as well.
What do you feel like? How do you feel mentally about that, mate? You know you're going into a race that has a lot of mountains. You don't have the mountains on the doorstep. You're trying to recreate everything. How did it sit with you?
Well, when we sat down and came up with a plan before the race, we had training blocks. So at the end of each training block, we had a simulation weekend where we'd actually go out into the mountains and then run the full distance or half the distance, and that was in as close to race simulation as we could get.
Yeah.
So for that, me mentally was a huge win.
Yeah.
And I think when it got to race day, that carried us through, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, definitely the second weekend that we spent in the mountains really gave a lot of confidence to both of you and also to Hurls.
Yeah,
talk us through that a little bit, Tom, because I know you were struggling a little bit going through the training as well, and obviously a lot of travel. Talk us through your preparation.
Yeah, look, again, the only reason I got through I got through that race was purely because of the...
Sorry.
The only reason I got through the race... Oh, there we go. The graph's making some noise now. Was purely because of the training and how it was structured. Otherwise, if I just tried to do that on my own, there's no chance that I would have still been going after. I mean, it took me a bit longer than Rob. I was still going after 40 hours.
Yeah.
As you well know, a lot of that comes down to what's going on in your head rather than your body. But if your body's not at least 80% of the way there, if it breaks, it breaks. You're not going any further. The training camp that we did in Shoka was absolutely that pushed me beyond the limits that I'd seen before. So doing the 100k up and down that loop. Going into that, it had been a bit tough last time. I got my nutrition completely wrong. I was trying to use some non-sugared gels, like fat-based, complete train wreck, and that's why I felt that I spiraled completely. Felt 1,000 times stronger when I went back to sugar-based on the time when we did the 100k.
Yeah,
that singular event. And then, to be honest, to follow up with Wadi B and how we were able to perform in the Wadi B race afterwards.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a second. That's interesting.
Yeah, that really allowed me to feel that, like, okay, even if I've got to slow it down, this is a lot further. It's going to be a lot tougher in terms of the actual terrain.
Yeah.
But I've got it in the locker. I've put myself into a very difficult situation before, and I've got through it. And that's what this is all about. Like the next race that we get to, whatever it might be, we've now got that in our locker.
Yeah.
So you got something to fall back on.
Like, we talk about the training camps. I know, Rob, you got some comments sort of that training camp was too much, too close to the event, and then you both went out and ran Wadi B, which again was supposed to be a 70-kilometer race a month before, and it ended up being a 75-kilometer race.
Yeah.
But how did you guys feel, like, physically? Obviously, mentally, Tom, like you say, like, you just know you can do it, so you feel a lot better from that. But do you think it was the right thing to do? And you can say what you like about our coaching, I actually don't care. What do you guys think? Because there's two schools of thought.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's going to have their different opinions and their thoughts on how people should train, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they don't know us. They don't know what we do day to day. They don't know how we train. They don't know how hard we can train and push ourselves.
Yeah.
Everyone's individual.
Yeah.
So for me, after every one of those big training blocks or big races, we had a lot of recovery and a lot less training miles the week after.
Yeah.
So I mean, put that into context. I think when it got to race day, we were as well prepared as we could have been.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, the 100k was an absolute necessity.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I felt great afterwards mentally. Look, I also think back to remember it was about 10 days before you and I went to MDS.
Yes,
2015.
Yeah.
I ended up doing that long run in the heat and all the rest of it. And you said, look, that was a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
At the time, like we were way too close, and I ended up running. I think it was somewhere between 45 and 50k.
Yeah, it was a long one. Yeah,
ran out of water and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I needed to do that myself. I needed to put myself into a really nasty situation mentally.
Yeah.
I came through that.
Yeah.
I don't know, physically, and you're obviously right.
Yeah.
That wasn't the right thing to do, but mentally, 100% was.
Yeah.
And I went into that race feeling a lot more confident because I knew that I'd just done what I did.
Yeah.
So with the 100k training, even if physiologically that might not have been the best, for me it worked. For you it worked. So I'd do it again.
Yeah.
The mistake for me was Wadi B.
Right.
Tom was very clear to me. He said, look, if anything starts to pull, like we have very different day to day.
Yeah.
So I'm agency, it's often 15-hour days, I'm often sat at a desk for a long period of time.
Are you saying that Rob's job as a maths teacher for the future generations is not important?
You're saying it's easier.
I'm saying
that I'd rather be on my feet than sat down for long periods of time.
Do you teach sitting down, Rob?
No.
Oh, okay.
Always up.
So my point being is the race for me for Wadi B, Tom said to me very specifically, he's like, if anything's pulling, he's like, just stop, because it's two loops.
Yeah.
And what happened? 20k in, everything's pulling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's completely my own fault. It was, call it ego, call it whatever, call it. I was enjoying the run apart from what was happening. We were doing well. So I just looked at it and was like, look, we were in like third place or something at the time, I think, when we came in, or fourth when we came in halfway. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to put the throttle down,
just go.
Try and keep up with Rob, and
probably the worst thing you could have done.
and let's go.
Well, Rob was chasing a girl at the same time. We might come to that. We might not.
But so for me, that's where I did injure myself a bit, and I really didn't run then much for the next 3 weeks leading up to the race, which I definitely felt.
Yeah.
And then I had a few issues, but I mean that's by the by. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But doing the 100k and then let's say doing the one lap of the Wadi B would have been perfect for me.
What is that balance though, guys? Like, we've spoken about mentally boosting. We've spoken about now physically, I can do anything.
Yeah.
You know, physically you felt really good after the 100k.
Yeah,
you know,
good.
mentally you felt really good after it, mate.
Yeah.
What's the balance between physical and mental going into something like a 140k non-stop race?
I'd say, it's a tough one.
How do you...
There's so much... The mental side of it is so big because you could potentially be running
it's
for...
all of it.
You could be there running
Really?
for 24 hours. You could be running for 44 hours. There's a 20-hour gap between the first and last place in that race. I mean, physically, you get to a certain point, your body's going to be broken down. Everything's going to hurt anyway. It's whether or not you want to stop. And if you stop, do you keep going?
Right.
So the weak mentally will stop and not continue.
And stop, yeah.
And the strong will finish.
Interesting, Tom?
That's it. I think when you start to get to those sort of distances, if you're looking to compete or you're looking to complete.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to complete, which most of us are, I mean, we're not international standard trail runners.
Yes.
We're looking to do as well as we can, but we're just looking to finish.
Yeah.
If that's your plan, then it's all mental.
Right.
Your body might feel, as you said then, you're going to feel horrendous.
No matter what.
No matter what, you're going to feel horrendous.
Right.
So you could do another 6 months of training, but after 20 hours or 30 hours, you're feeling
Hold that
absolute
thought.
shit.
Listen to that again, guys. You're going to feel horrendous. It doesn't matter for you. I mean, the feedback from the guys that won the race, the two guys that came first, is exactly the same, isn't it?
Definitely.
So it's not that you're the best, you're the Ultra Trail World Championship, or you're Tom and Rob.
Yeah.
It's going to be, in parts, horrendous.
Exactly. Because those guys are pushing themselves to their limit. You're pushing yourselves to your limit. They'll be further ahead than you are, but you all feel as bad as each other.
Yeah.
So then the differential comes down to the mental game.
Right.
And you can see when you blazing sunshine, you're into the second day and you're burnt and you're going past one guy and you look at him and you can see on his face if he's going to finish or not. It doesn't matter if he's done an extra 6 months of training or not.
Yeah.
You look at him and you can tell if he's going to finish or not.
And I think what you're saying, mate, is there's probably a lot of people that, and we'll talk about the dropout rate and stuff, but a lot of people that dropped out the race that could have been potentially fitter and by a certain number of standards better mountain goats than you guys.
Yeah.
But because you
Rob's a pretty good mountain goat.
because
I do okay.
you were mentally quite strong, you made it through.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. Now, these races are sick in every single sense of the term.
true.
Positive and negative
It's
connotations
like,
to that word.
It's just, okay, end of the week, Thursday night, everyone's worked a full week.
Yeah.
Rob's job's quite easy, so he would have been fine, but you've been
it.
flat out
Yeah,
changing
half
the world.
days.
Half days. And
I'm talking about sitting down for long periods of time. His job is not easy. Half my family teachers, Rob. Don't be
7:30
offended.
Thursday evening, which is the end of the working week here, it's like a
Yeah.
Friday in most of the world, at 7:30 p.m. these race starts. You've got
it's
cognitive
nasty.
fatigue, you've got physical fatigue, you've got every fatigue. How do you prepare yourself for a 7:30 p.m. start?
Well, look, I think Rob takes the cake with what he did, so I'm going to let him take this question.
We can actually write a whole book
I
about
don't think
this.
any ultra runner turned up and did what Rob did.
What? There's nothing wrong with what I did.
No,
tell us how
I'm
you-
saying it's incredible.
Oh, okay,
You got out of a car and ran an ultra where everyone else was like massaging themselves for 2 days.
We pushed it a little bit for time.
Mate, I got you there an hour early.
An hour
What
early.
are you talking about?
Well, I couldn't find
20 minutes
the
early.
check-in desk. Had to repack my bag. But no, for me, the prep all came down for me because the race started at night time. You're gonna have worked all day. You're gonna be tired. So I just tried to eat as much as humanly possible throughout the day, and try not to do as much stand-up teaching.
Right.
No, I did. I ate as much as I could
Yeah.
and tried to get a good night's sleep before because I knew that it was going to be 55 hours before I'd
Was
be
it
able to
something
sleep
that
again.
bothered you though, guys?
Not
Was that
really.
whole thing that I just spoke about, end of the week, 7:30 p.m., end of the working day, does that come into play or not?
I think physically, I think probably somewhere it comes into play, but to be honest, mentally, there's so much adrenaline.
Yeah.
You're so pumped. You've been thinking
super
about this for
excited.
months. So super excited about
Yeah.
getting started that you kind of breeze over it. Now, does it have a cumulative effect 30 hours in? You could say it potentially
physically
does.
or mentally. Yeah, it comes back to the same debate.
The same thing. So
it's.
I mean, look, prep is super important. I'm super impressed, as I said, with what Rob did of having to work around the job of getting in a car, getting out of a car, and starting running.
Yeah,
I went down a day early. I made sure I had a decent sleep. I rested all day, as what a lot of the guys were doing. But look, it just comes down to that's not the be all and end all at the end of the day. Like I had a tough race. Rob smashed it.
Yeah.
So it means you can get out of a car and go running. It's just it's what's going on in your head.
Let's talk about the race then, guys. 380 to 400. They're throwing around different figures, but I think it finished around the 380 mark, just under 400 people on the start line. An incredible job by UTMB. We've got to take our hats off to them. Like
best event.
We drove into it and literally went, oh my God, I just thought it was going to be a handful of people. 3, 2, 1. Inshallah, have a nice day. But
see you in 50 hours.
What's the feeling? They put you in the pen 15 minutes before the start. What does it feel like?
I think we were just super pumped, Like we'd just seen Rob, so myself and Sean had spent a day down there. So we were catching up, and we were just, we were talking about some race tactics, just like.
What was the race tactics, mate?
Well, to be honest, not to go out of the gate too hard. We knew that there was a lot of people. We've done enough of these things that people go flying out of the gate, and it's just like, look, yes, we are racing in a way. We want to do as best as we can, but that's 20 hours down the line. It's a long, long way away. So it's just about, look, let's just get things going, keep it calm, keep the heart rate down. We got a long way to go, and then just chill out.
It didn't quite work out like that, though, did it?
No, it didn't. No.
How did it work out then?
So, as with all races, I'm sure you know, the gun goes off. Everyone gets a little bit excited and wants to keep up with the race leaders. Yeah. So I think the first 15k or so was run at an average of.
Yeah, we're way too fast.
5:45 per kilometre.
5:45,
Under 6 minutes per K.
It was a little bit sneaky, though, wasn't it, at the same time, because it was flat.
Yeah.
So it sort of lured you in.
Ish. Flat-ish.
There was a slight incline. Maybe
it was going up.
It was going up, but compared to what you went up, it wasn't you could run it, and you could run it at 5:40.
Yeah.
So then what happened? 15k in?
15k in. The first checkpoint comes. I think there was 40 or 50 people dropped out straight away.
Really?
I think so, yeah. It was just within that first 1 hour.
Was it the first? I thought it was the third checkpoint that they had those numbers. I think it was the third.
Getting my facts right.
I remember we got to the...
Because it was after it was that dirt road, and that killed them. When they went up the dirt road, they got to the top, and I started to see people spaced out. As we went up that dirt road. Yeah.
That early,
the
so
first
we're
big climb.
Less than 20k into the race.
Yeah,
exactly,
just kept wrecked.
It was wild, because we tried to come up the track that you ran up, and I was like, this track's going to end, because it started off like Sheikh Zayed Road, nice and wide, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and I'm like, we're going all the way back, and then we get to a point, and I had a radio in the car with Colin and Jack, and they're like, I think we should go back, and I'm like, yeah, I think we should, and anyway, we spun around, and we got to a checkpoint at 35k.
I think there was checkpoint 3, was it? 3 or 4?
3 or 4, that was it, and... one of the girls who's been on the show, Mountain Gypsy, who's a girl that has incredible dreams and is bringing them to life, actually. If you haven't seen her show, I'll put it in the show notes, what number it was. She's conquering all the summits of the world. Absolutely awesome character.
Wow.
And she came up to me, and she was manning the checkpoint, and I said, how's it going? She said, 70 people have dropped out already. And I'm looking at my watch. We've got there about 11 o'clock. So we literally got there like 3 hours into the race, and 70 people have dropped out. And I'm like, oh my God. But you guys are saying like 40 have dropped out by 20k. So it's hard. It's just...
I mean, look, they would know more than us. We were picking up bits of information here and there, and
unbelievable.
The odd checkpoint bit of info here and there. But there was a bunch of people that I think got into it with no idea. I mean, remember the guy that you mentioned he had like a sack over his back, didn't he?
There was a guy, yes, there was a guy that was... He looked Nepalese, and he was running with... It was a cloth that was wrapped up and tied around his shoulder.
Like a bed sheet almost.
We saw
bizarre.
him. Yeah. And we saw people with just mono-strap bags.
Mono-strap bags,
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, there's a few people I just think had no idea what they were signing up for.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was.
So you get to... I saw you guys the first time at 35k.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long did you stay together for?
As soon as we went up. I mean, to give a little bit of context, so the issue I had was with my calf. I had a small tear in the calf at the top of the soleus gastroc kind of junction there. So as soon as you went up, I couldn't use the toes of my left foot.
Right.
So I couldn't push off as if I was like either sprinting. So when I was running, I was keeping my foot very flat.
Right.
And then as soon as we went up, I had to place my full foot. So it was taking me a lot longer to take every step.
Right.
Because I had to get my heel onto wherever the next step was.
Now imagine, so then you're on your own.
Then I'm on my own, and that's it for the race.
Thoughts?
Look, I didn't have any issue with that.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, like for me, in terms of thoughts, I had absolutely no issue with the boys doing what they needed to do.
Right.
Because it was a long race. But for me, I was spinning at 100 miles an hour in my head because I'm thinking, I can't run, I can't go uphill very well.
Yeah.
And I've got 140k in front of me.
With a lot of
how am I going to deal with this?
Right.
So I was silent. I remember when I was jogging next to you guys in the beginning.
That's right, yeah.
Not saying a word because
right.
I knew what was happening on my leg. It was just tearing, and I was thinking I might not even make 15k.
Right.
Like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I just had to just double down and get inside myself and just deal with my own shit. And so therefore, like, to be honest, there was no point in me being with the guys anyway because I'm not going to.
Didn't bring much to the party.
No, I'm not talking.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain to them.
No.
Like, I've got nothing to add. So it's like I'd rather just. I don't want to like slow anyone down. So like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You're going to do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And let's hopefully we all get through it.
Yeah.
And that was the way that I took.
So Rob, you and Hurls are now a 2-ball. And the field,
yes.
from what I saw from the way that people came into that checkpoint at 35k, was incredibly spread out.
Yeah.
You were basically the only 2-ball I saw, really.
The field, once we hit the first hill, the field just changed drastically. Everyone was a big bunch. You hit the first hill, and you get
single trail before, right? Then that
trail.
just put everybody in. And we were climbing over boulders, under
we'd come
trees.
through,
it was
we'd
proper
come through
technical.
a massive wadi, through some small rivers, up some big steep climbs. So everyone just naturally gets spread out.
Yeah.
But I think me and Hurls have got ourselves with a nice little group of about 4 or 5 guys.
Okay.
A French couple, I think a South African, and a few other guys.
Right.
And so we just kind of played cat and mouse with each other for 10, 12k, something like that.
Yeah.
And then a few people died off and we were on our own again.
Just you two?
Yep.
Did you at any point sort of have a conversation and say, right, we're 2 together, it's all good, or is it just, or was it too early, mate?
That didn't happen. So at some stages he'd pull ahead for maybe 500 metres, then we'd swap and I'd pull ahead for 500 metres.
Yeah.
And at every checkpoint we'd meet up again and either one of us would keep moving.
Yeah.
We were going at a very similar pace because it was still quite early in the race.
Yeah.
And then sort of as it got deeper and deeper into the race, we sort of became a bit more sensible and thought, actually, lots of people are dropping out here. It is harder than we thought. We'd be best off sticking together.
At what point was that, mate?
I think that was, I want to say, about 60k or so, 50 or 60.
Right. So, not at the start, but still a lot.
I can tell you when it was. Where were you camping?
We were camping just near Alila.
So where?
That was 80k.
That was at about the 80k mark, but it was where we were camping.
When the sun was rising on that second day, that's when we sort of stuck together from there.
Did you like that bit at the top where you just seen us, where they just sent you to do like a pathetic little U-turn?
It's beautiful.
It was incredible, wasn't it? Do you remember that part of the course?
Before up to Alila?
No, way before Alila.
It's like the top of the Grand Canyon, you do like...
and there was an army truck. And literally, the track came down. We were stood there for about half an hour, and it was hilarious because we only saw about 15 runners come through. But it went the track went parallel to the road, and then you literally did a U-turn and came back on yourself, and then went down into this sort of valley. And it was just like could have been one of the most soul-destroying things if it was a bit longer, because it was just a straight U-turn to get a little bit more distance. Yeah,
there was a few things like that along the track.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, mate. Was there a lot of things that seemed like, why didn't we just go straight?
They were definitely trying to get the numbers in terms of distance and also elevation.
Right.
So there was a few things where we could have gone from there to there, but yet we went down that way, down to the bottom, all the way back up the other side, and back across. And you're just thinking, the main one was obviously Alila, right?
Yeah.
So we could see Alila 4 or 5 hours before we actually got to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we were at the same level. We were 500 meters, 900 meters
away
as the crow flies across the valley. and then to go
How
all the way down.
good if you had a drone? Like, you could have just...
You did have a
the drone out.
The infamous drone.
You still don't have a drone.
Mate, I smuggled it into Oman.
You've
and
got a
he
box.
still
He's
didn't
got a box.
fly it.
That's it.
How to do this drone. This is a long-standing story, folks, about the drone. We might tell it another time. But that really happened, like you say, Tom, quite a lot.
Yeah.
You're literally 500 meters as the crow flies.
Yeah.
And from that point where you were 500 meters, I think it was almost 3 hours to come round. Because I remember when we saw you guys, Rob, and we said Alila's only a few K away.
See in half an hour for lunch, something like that.
Yeah, and then I backed it up with, I'm not quite sure the route. Because Hills was like, no, it's a bit further on here, and I was like, yeah, you go on that.
It was 4K, and it took us 3 hours.
There we go.
It took me 3 hours.
Incredible.
That last section.
What happens, guys, when you set out at 5:40, and it's all good?
Yeah.
Now you do that 3 or 4K in 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
For me, it's by that point you've kind of how I was dealing with it. I just gave myself to the race. I was like, whatever comes, I'm just going to do that.
It got worse.
It got
you
much
went
worse.
Slower.
Yeah, it got much worse. I mean, I did go slower.
I'm not trying to be funny, but it's like I checked Tom at one stage, and when you were going up the final climb, you were doing 750 meters per hour.
Yeah.
I mean, folks, just listen to that.
That was
750 meters per hour.
I didn't stop on the way up.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's about 3 hours.
That last hill in context was
1.2
a vertical kilometre
Yeah.
in maybe 3 kilometres of forward movement.
It was savage. It was
in the pitch black.
We were climbing. It was
on sheer vertical cliffs.
That was the one thing that I would say is it was actually, I would say that was dangerous.
Really?
There was areas of that where we're shimmying around a rock, and you've got a meter that you're walking on, and it's up to a kilometre drop behind you.
Really?
You're not hooked into anything. You've been awake for 30 plus hours.
Yeah. That was the hardest bit about that.
Yeah.
Did anyone die in this race?
Not that I'm aware of.
No,
but
I didn't hear it. I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to be funny. I think
Mountain Rescue came past me saying that they heard there was some issues. They were asking me if I knew about it. I was like, no, mate, I don't know. And he carried on down. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything after the race. I think we would have by now.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But to be honest, I was the way that the number of runners that were coming through that had been then awake for 30 plus hours, that were in a hell of a state, eyes bloodshot, like really wrecked at that point. We were 120 kilometers into a race.
Did you do it in the daylight?
Pitch black.
Pitch black. And you also did it pitch black.
We did it pitch black as well, yeah.
Incredible.
So I got to the top at sunrise, so the sun just started to break as I crested, and then I waited up there for like 15 minutes to watch it come up.
Incredible.
The other thing to consider, that bit, when we got to the top, we'd been running in the day maybe 23, 24 degrees, and by the time we got to the top, I think it was 2 degrees C before wind, and it was windy.
Yeah, it was very windy in parts.
Very windy. So, the temperature difference between hot and cold was maybe 35 degrees from day to night.
And that messes with your body and your mind, obviously, right?
Especially if you're only going at like less than a K, like you're not running.
Right. Yeah.
You're not creating any heat.
We weren't even hiking at that point. That was up that hill. We were climbing.
Yeah, climbing.
We're literally using both hands, both feet, gripping onto the side of rocks.
Yeah.
It's windy. It's pitch black, and you know that there's a kilometre drop behind you, and you're shitting it.
Yeah,
like, literally. There's a certain point where I'm like, if I slip here, there's nothing behind me.
Incredible.
That's definitely where having someone with you made a hell of a difference. So we could say to each other that this bit is tough, go slow,
or catch each other.
And just kind of look out for each other. But I suppose on your own, that's very tough. Yeah, mentally as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was the toughest thing I've ever done in my life, hands down.
Yeah.
And the I've never done an ultra on my own.
Yeah,
because I've always either been with yourself, it's either been with yourself,
running with
you're always with someone. So for me, it was very different through the nights, especially when I'm spending, apart from an aid station, I'm spending 7, 8, 9 hours pitch black just on my own, to the point where it got so stretched out that I would be looking around the hills around me, and I couldn't see a head torch. I was like, I am miles away from anybody here.
Yeah.
And so that was a bit trippy.
What is that like? Let's jump into that a little bit, because first night you're all good, you're fired up.
Yeah.
It probably gets to about 3 a.m. and you're like, okay, I'm getting a bit tired, but it's sunrise soon.
Yeah.
Then it's the full day, and now we're into
Second night.
Night 2.
Yeah.
And by this time, you can pretty much calculate. You know exactly. You've got your Garmin on. You know how much of the race is left.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, you were sending me messages, Rob, we should be at the finish by about 5. So you've known way back that you're doing another night.
Yeah.
Talk us through the second night, because that's when it gets really quite enjoyable.
Yeah. That's when the fun happens.
Yeah. Well, we hit the second night later. Well, not as far into the race as we thought we would. We thought we'd be a bit further on, to be honest. We thought we'd be up to the top of the last kilometre hill before night hit, so we could get some good Instagram photos, but it never really panned out that way. But the second night, that's when your body, well, my body anyway, started to shut down a bit.
And what does that feel like, mate? When you say shut down, explain that to people.
I became my feet and legs started to swell. I became bloated. I was retaining water, starting to see things that weren't quite there, and things were...
Like what?
I saw in my head what looked like to be a huge forest that we were going to run through, but it turned out to be non-existent and just some mountains. But the forest was swaying in the wind.
Yeah.
And then the rocks at the side of the trail were all cats and frogs.
Yeah.
Somebody since told me there actually were frogs on the trail.
There was, I saw one.
Just one.
Yeah, just one.
But I'm talking hundreds of frogs.
Yeah.
Everywhere you looked, left and right, was frogs. And you know in your mind it's not real, but your mind is convincing you it is real.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Very bizarre.
What did you do?
Just enjoyed it, really.
Your body's doing everything that it can to make you stop.
Yeah.
Your body's in pure survival mode at that point. It's like, I need to do something now, and I need to tell this guy to just stop what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it does some crazy stuff. I'm saying I saw rocks as like a locally dressed woman in an abaya, but a white abaya. I saw a small Emirati boy pointing a handheld torch at me, and the end of that torch was the actual reflector that was stuck to the rock.
Right, stuck on the
rock. My perception of it, I mean, I stopped dead a few times because I thought I heard people shouting. There was nothing.
Yeah.
I jumped off the trail at one point because I thought there was something stood next to me. All sorts of crazy stuff.
Is it frightening? Pitch black. You're on your own, Tom. You're with Hurls. I mean, I specifically told you guys at the checkpoint, I was like, once you're going to hallucinate tonight.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, I want to give you some bad news, but I'm going to give you a solution. Like I told you, like, vocalize it to each other. It's happening.
That was it. We kind of made a joke of it. We enjoyed it almost because we were able to talk about it and sort of. Mine were more animal-based. Sean had some interesting ones. So he had the floor. He was stopped for a pee, as you do on the trail, and the floor beneath him melted away. So he ended up jumping back from nothing, really. Jumping back from the floor. And then he also...
and you're just stood there laughing.
Pretty much, yeah. It's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
And he also saw a fake checkpoint as well, which was interesting.
Oh, really?
Turned around the corner going, where's the checkpoint gone? Yeah, it's not here. That's because it wasn't there to start with.
It's not supposed to be there.
Exactly.
It's another, 2 hours away.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So we just chatted about it, and it was just made it fun.
Tom, obviously a little bit of a different experience for you,
it was a little bit different. I think most of it, as you said, you're with it enough to know what's going on.
Yes.
Like, you're like, okay, I'm hallucinating, like... You're still with it to know, okay, my body's trying to tell me to stop. It's trying to do all these sort of things. It's cool. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, let's just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times where I actually thought that there was people there or there was something there. So there was a couple of times where I got a little bit freaked out. I'm like, I'm halfway down a valley in a forest somewhere in the middle of fucking nowhere. There's no one around me. No one can hear me. So there's a couple of times where you're like, oh, this is a bit freaky.
Yeah.
But those were just those were a couple of instances. The rest of them were just. Yeah, this is nuts what I'm watching in front of me. Like, I'm convinced I can see a cat or whatever it might be, but I know it's not, and then it wanders off and it's not there, and you're like, wow, that was pretty trippy.
In that time, is it like, are you just saying to yourself, like, what the freaking hell am I doing here?
Yeah, for me, like, in terms of...
You must be.
Yeah. I mean, look... You know why you're doing it, and look, we've discussed our whys and all the rest of it. Like, we know why we're doing it, but sometimes for me, I laughed at myself, and I was like, it's pretty ridiculous. The situation.
Is stupid.
Yeah,
it's like stupidity. Like, it's the weekend. You could be hanging out with your girlfriend. I was hanging out with your girlfriend. It's all good. But
on the
what
second
answer
night,
do you give yourself?
You just like. just like, I'm here now. Like you're enjoying it and finding it difficult at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain that emotion. Like you're enjoying the fact that you're there. It's very weird what's happening in terms of the hallucinations and that. Yeah. And so you're kind of like, this is completely nuts, but I'm still really glad that I'm doing it.
Right.
But you're also, everything becomes simple, because the only goal when you get to that point is not stopping, is finishing, right?
Yeah.
So the only goal, so everything else is just completely irrelevant.
Right.
The only thing you've got to focus on is just keep your body moving when everything is screaming at you to stop.
To stop, yeah.
And that's it. That's the game.
You spoke about enjoyment there. And we've probably dwelled on a lot of the suffering, and people are like, UTMB, thanks, but that's not a website I'll be going over to. Like, it's an incredible experience. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the enjoyable parts, because I think for every crazy situation and for every bit of pain, there is an equal amount of enjoyment in these races.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Or maybe not. You're looking at me blank. Come on, help me out. We're trying to trying to run an insurance business.
Did you enjoy it, mate?
As much as the hallucinations and the bloating and the swelling and the sore feet are seen as negative, it's all part and parcel of the race. That's ultimately, when you sign up for a race like this, you know it's going to happen. Yeah. So that is part of it, and you do enjoy it. You may not enjoy it at the time, but once you reflect on it and you finish the race, everything is... that becomes part and parcel of it.
You look back with rose-tinted glasses, don't you?
Definitely.
When you're in it, you're like, this is shit.
Sign up
and then you look back and you're like, oh, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, seeing that sunrise in the morning, seeing the sunset, seeing every corner and every step you take is a brand new view. It's just running in a new place. It's phenomenal. Yeah. To be fair, not just this race, every trail race I've done has had spectacular views. It just... unrivaled anywhere else that I've ever been.
Yeah, I mean, when you're at the top, I was very fortunate that my timings ended up with the sun coming up just as I hit the top of that big climb, and the view across all of the mountain tops, across this mountain range, with the mist that was sitting in each of the valleys, and just like the crests and just the colours. I literally stood there and I was like, this is one of the most incredible views I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah, and
just incredible.
And I felt like I kind of felt like I was in a small club of people that had kind of ever seen it, which I know is ridiculous, but I just kind of felt that there's not that many people that will put themselves in that situation to have just done what we did, climbed to the top of that mountain, watched an incredible sunrise, and that's why we do it. That's why I look at it and just think, outside of all of the intrinsic motivation, you look at that and you just think, wow, this is exactly why I'm here.
Yeah. I think it's like conversations we had in the middle of the Sahara. There's the big salt flats, and we're just looking at each other going, wow, this is actually... just incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just amazing.
You feel in that race, you feel like you're in a place where not many people will ever visit. Like humans type of thing.
But you have to go... Sorry, mate. You have to go through what we've just spoken about to get there.
Definitely.
For sure.
But to be fair, they purpose-built this trail for the race, so we're probably the only humans to have ever been on some of those parts of the trail, and to be around some of those areas.
Incredible.
Yeah, certainly outside of like Bedouin tribes, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like, not many people have gone to the areas, as you said, I think 80 kilometres of the race
was brand new,
purpose-built.
Let's go through again some of the stats. The total race distance was...
140 at finish.
140 kilometres.
Yeah.
Elevation, you spoke about 8,000. What was it?
Mine was 7.9.
7.9?
Incredible on that.
Yeah, 8,000.
8,000, so that was it. Number of people that started the race, we said 380-ish.
Yeah.
Yes. What was the dropout rate?
57%.
See, I think that's actually been revised up.
Has it?
So my math's pretty
bad. Now they've found a few more people.
Because they said I think there was 146 people that finished.
Right.
So that's more than...
So yeah, that's more...
50, that's over 60%.
Yeah. Wow. 60% dropout.
57 is what I've heard, but then when I was told the actual numbers of finishers, then it's over 60.
Let's continue to woo people with some of the stats. Highest temperature, you said?
I think it was about 25, 26.
And lowest?
Before wind chill, 2 degrees.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's absolutely unbelievable. Like that temperature swing, I don't think you get in any race in the world.
No, it was very windy. So much so that Omani army moved their checkpoint from the top of the mountain 2 kilometers down into the mountain because they said it was too cold and they weren't ready.
Too cold.
Yeah.
Actually, we found a couple of Omani guys and they were telling me it was quite cold. Maybe it was the same guys. And the winners of this race finished in how many hours?
22.
Correct.
Yeah.
They were predicted 18. That's what they were hoping for. So it took them 4 hours longer than...
4 hours longer. Rob,
Just
you and
incredible.
Hurls finished in how many hours?
36 hours and 1 minute.
Just over. Should have
Just
run
over.
faster.
I know.
So you're out there for 36. I mean, that's incredible. Tom, a little bit longer, mate. What did you end up? 42 hours.
42
Folks,
hours,
just
mate.
think about that. Tom had woken up at about 5 or 6 a.m. on the Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So add 12 hours on there. You're now awake for basically 56 hours.
Well over 50 hours, yeah.
It's just absolutely incredible. Any stats, Rob? You talked a little bit about the calories you ate before. Any idea how many calories you inhaled during the race?
I didn't actually keep track. I really wish I had, but no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Was there a game plan, a certain number of calories per hour, or?
I was trying to aim for roughly between 250 and 300, a mixture of liquids and foods, and then at the aid station I'd just cram in anything else that I fancied at the time.
Yeah.
Biggest learning? Was there one, or is it everything that you've done? I mean, you guys are seasoned ultra runners, so it's quite difficult, but it was anything reinforced?
For me, very much so. It's not linear.
I like it.
Meaning that whatever you're going through, you can feel horrific at 20k and feel on top of the world at 60.
So it's not going to get progressively worse.
It doesn't
it's
get
not gonna
progressively
better either.
No, because no matter what race you've ever done, you always feel good at the finish line.
Yeah.
So therefore it's mental.
Yeah.
So it's just it's about keeping it's about keeping going. And one of the other things as well, which I want to touch on before we finish as well, that I had this conversation this morning actually. Your body will do absolutely everything that it thinks it needs to do to try and make you stop after you get to a certain period of time.
Right.
Definitely.
It was also highlighted by what you were saying earlier about your body was trying to tell you to stop.
Yeah.
You had that pain after 5 runs. 2 days later, it's gone.
Yeah.
Your body's trying to tell you to stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
For me, what happened was obviously I had this issue with my calf. It went up into the back of my knee. At one point, coming down, and this is why I was so slow coming down the boulder field towards the finish. So I'm only about 12k out at this point.
Yeah.
Something went in the side of my knee to the point where I literally thought I was snapping bones. Like my entire body was consumed with pain. That for about 45 minutes, I could only step 1 foot, and then I'd bring my other leg over. Step 1 foot, bring my other leg over. That got to the point where I was like, I'm actually not sure if I'm going to get through this last 12k before cut-off.
Incredible.
I was like, I just can't move. And then I sat down for a bit. I was like, right, I need to sort this out. Keep moving, just keep moving. 20 minutes later, it's gone.
Incredible.
And when I say all-encompassing, I was almost getting a headache from my knee, if you know what I mean. Like, it was my entire body was feeling this.
Yeah.
And then literally 20 minutes later, it was gone.
Just because it wanted you to stop.
Because it wanted me to stop. And then it realized, I mean, look, I might be making this up here, but my body realized that my mind wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
So it was like...
So it just kept going.
This is happening.
Yeah.
So you got to fall in line.
Yeah.
So it's about that sort of that just driving yourself further forward.
Robert, any new lessons or any reinforced lessons?
For me, the furthest I'd ever run, single stage race before this was 100k, and that was in our training run.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was a 72 kilometer WAD-EB race.
Right.
So it was a huge jump up for me. I think what I discovered about myself is that if well, not just me, but for anybody, if you want to do something, you can do it. There's nothing really that's going to stop you. If you're willing to do it, you can do it.
That's very
You just
well
need
put.
to have the will, have the drive, get up, put the work in, and you'll get it done.
Sometimes the science will tell you that you can't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people will tell you can't do it as well, for sure.
Because it's always easy for people to tell you that you can't because, well, there could be a number of reasons why they tell you can't do it because they might feel that they can't do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's not many people that are going to go, yeah, mate, you'll definitely be able to run 140k when you've only done 100 before.
Fellas, before we wrap up, it's a question that obviously everyone asks, and let's feed the people.
Yeah.
What's next?
For me, I need to reconnect to work a bit.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I've been very fortunate to have a team that have picked up a lot of slack over the last few months.
Yeah.
When you're putting in these sort of hours, something's got to give.
Yeah.
All the hours on the weekend that I normally work, I've been going into ultras. So for me, it's just really refocusing for the next few months.
Yeah.
And then picking it back up again to an extent, hopefully looking towards Chamonix. If I get in through that lottery, then I'd like to be running probably the CCC race in Chamonix in summer.
Which is like 100k?
101k, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm not too concerned. If I do any of the races in between urban ultra stuff, then that would be for a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But I'm giving myself that much time so that I can really get some work done. So,
folks, if you do want to get involved in some ultra running, the races that Tom mentioned, the urban ultra races, are absolutely awesome.
Really good.
The Hajar race is coming up on the 15th of February or 16th of February. There's a 30k, a 50k, and 100k.
Yeah.
Rob, you've done the Mount Sana 60, which is in March.
Yep, that's very good as well.
You love that one. And where we held your training camp, it's called the Big Stinker in January, which there is 3 options now. There's 1 loop 15k, 2 loops 30k, 3 loops 45k, or do what these guys did, just stay there the whole night and do 100k. But they're definitely good races if people are obviously inspired, which they
really
should
well
be
organised.
by your story. Robert, I know you've got a different kind of ultra coming up.
An 18-year ultra, at least.
But any plans, mate? In any thoughts at the moment, or is it a bit early?
I'm not allowed to plan any races until
I might have changed that this morning in my talk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we planted some seeds.
Well, no, I will have enough points to qualify for the CCC as well, so I'll probably put an application in for that.
Let's do it.
So to qualify for CCC, you need 8 points.
8 points. So we got
and
6 from this.
We picked up 6 from that race.
We both
just one other race.
We both got another 2 from other races, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. So to put into context, that race, the UTMB Oman, gives you the same number of points as the Marathon des Sables, which is 5 days, 250k.
Yeah.
So it gives you some sort of context in
how hard it was.
Yeah.
Incredible race, fellas. And people, as I started off by saying, should hop over to the UTMB Instagram and spend a little bit of time on that by clicking onto some of the sort of pro guys that were in that race to see what their comments are. I think it gives it a lot more context.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
great.
Excellent. We'll get Hurls on. Hopefully he echoes what you said, and hopefully he can explain in more detail his midlife crisis. But
he's dying for his own show.
He's dying for his own show, mate.
He actually flew back. He just, as soon as he heard he's getting his own show, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not here.
Fat couch potato to ultramarathon weirdo in 18 months.
There we go.
We could almost write a book on him.
Do you know, just before we finish, that started over a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
10 weeks out from MDS. I told him that's what I was doing. He's like, I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, we finished the wine. We had another bottle. Next morning, I messaged him. I was like, are you still up for this?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm still up for it.
We went to run along the beach, and he just got to 10k, 180 beats.
We're saying that actually, I signed up for this race on my birthday after a bottle of champagne. So I mean, it's a lot to be said about alcohol and booking races.
Ultra runners and
alcohol don't mix well. Mr. Robert Jones, Mr. Tom Martin, you guys were absolutely awesome. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and definitely folks should watch out for what you do next, whether it's being a father, whether it's going back to this very tough agency life that you speak about, Tom. But guys, seriously well done. That was an incredible race. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
Cheers.